However, most of your contracts are going to have a clause in it called the Force Majeure Clause. A Force Majeure Clause, if you have it in your contract, and we can talk about if you don't later, but a Force Majeure Clause typically is going to say something like, if there's an act of God, if there's civil unrest, if there's a civil war, or something along those lines that makes it impractical or impossible to go forward with the event as scheduled, you will take reasonable efforts to resume the duties and obligations under that contract at such time as the force majeure event has subsided. Essentially, it is an agreement that you will not sue each other for breach of contract for the fact that something is preventing you that's greater than you from going forward with your obligations under the contract. And again, typically it's tornado, hurricane. If all the workers go on strike and you can't take the bus, these are typically force majeure events. Something that makes it impossible or impractical that's out of your control from going forward with the event. The force majeure clause says you can't sue each other, and then you will take reasonable efforts to resume once it's over. So the first thing is, well, Rob, pandemic isn't under the litany of things in my force majeure clause. I don't know what the law is in Texas. However, typically, whatever the situation is, if it's truly beyond your control and it's preventing everybody from doing what they're supposed to do under the contract, then it doesn't necessarily have to be in the catch-all. Like the force majeure clauses, as they're most are written. Now, one of your contracts might say only these things. However, they probably don't. And so a contract can't be 1,000 pages. So this thing will be like, it's an act of God, like XYZ. And I would argue that given the situation that this is nationwide and it's on everybody's radar, it's probable, and again, you'll need to talk to your local attorney in Texas, it's probable that a pandemic will function as a force majeure event. So at the end of the day, the COVID-19 likely will be a situation that will trigger your force majeure clause if you have one in your contract, meaning you will need to take reasonable efforts with your client to reschedule the date. That is your legal obligation at this point.